Hey guys, welcome back, and in today's video I'm doing my way too early 2024 NFL mock draft. This is not a prediction on how I think it's going to go because we're going to be completely far off. It's just something to come back, look on a year from now and be like, wow, how off was I? I looked at my mock last year and I had Tyler Van Dyke in my top 10. He wasn't even drafted. He went back to school. It's just stuff like that. We don't know what's going to happen. And it's just a little bit of fun to kind of get a chance to look at some of these prospects. So before I get into it, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you are new. Like I said, this isn't a prediction video. We're just going to have some fun today. And it starts with the Arizona Cardinals, who really kicked things off, not with the number one pick, but with the number one and number two picks. Now, in real life, if the Cardinals had the number one and number two picks, they had one of these picks from the Houston deal where they traded the third pick back. I think in real life, if they have the number one pick, they're going to trade back. And I'll explain why. I think Kyler Murray's their long term guy. They committed a lot of money to him last offseason, gave him a big contract. They're not going to really, there's no outs really in that contract. They're kind of committed to Kyler Murray for the long run. And I think that means trading back. And a team that I think trades up, and this is the only trade I'm going to do because it's impossible to predict these things, are the Raiders, who are projected to be at 11. So it's going to be a first, a second, a first next year. I'm going to also throw a fifth their way, similar to what the Panthers gave up to move to number one with the Bears. The only issue is, in real life, if this deal goes down, I think there's a player involved. Ultimately, I think that player would be Max Crosby. But I'm going to have the Raiders trade up and select Caleb Williams, one of the best quarterback prospects we've had in a number of years. He is mobile. He's a very good athlete. He's got a great arm. I think he could be a very solid NFL player. And I really like what he could bring to this squad. Moving on, we have the Arizona Cardinals, who have number 11 and number 16. Now, number 16, not quite sure where that pick is from. You guys are going to have to help me out in the comment section. But I think with your first pick, this is a team that they did address wide receiver. They took Michael Wilson. I love Michael Wilson. They've got Rondale Moore. It looks like DeAndre Hopkins is going to come back, but a player of Marvin Harrison Jr.'s caliber is too good to pass on here, and I'm going to take him. Best wide receiver prospect I've seen in my entire life. He's got great size, great hands, good speed off the line, incredible route runner. This dude does it all. He's the best player in this draft, in my opinion, and I absolutely love Marvin Harrison Jr., and I think Arizona takes him here, which leaves Drake May to go to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is another guy. Super mobile, just a really good athlete. Great arm. He's going to be a very good player. I really like what he could bring to this squad, so I'm going to take him. Then we get the Los Angeles Rams. I'm going to look at the quarterback position. I think Quinn Ewers is going to go pretty high, but I'm just not comfortable taking him here at 4. I think Quinn Ewers will be a first-round quarterback. I like Joe Milton. I think he's going to end up being good. Just looking at some of these guys, like I have a whole spreadsheet that I've started working on already for this, and there's some names I'm going to have to add in here. Jeremy Musa, I didn't have Joe Milton. I'm going to add him, as well as Riley Leonard. But we're on the Los Angeles Rams here. I think if I'm looking at this team, I really like what they did in the draft. I think I'm going to continue to add some help here. And I'm going to try and get this off my screen really quick. I do apologize. I want to get some more help on this defense. And I'm going to take Dallas Turner. He's a really good pass rusher. I think he played alongside Micah Parsons. I think he makes the most sense here for the Los Angeles Rams. So I'm going to take him here at number 4. At number 5, you get the Indianapolis Colts, and I'm going to select an offensive tackle here. I don't know what's going to happen with Freeland, Ryman. They got Emil Ekiyor. That's fine. Joe Alt, too good of a talent to pass on at this spot. He's one of the best left tackles. If you look at his numbers, 0 sacks allowed last year. He's incredible as a tackle prospect, and I think that makes way too much sense. For the Commanders, this is where I think we're going to see Quinn Ewers come off my board here. He played very good in Texas spring game, and I think he is going to end up really improving his draft stock and going inside the top 10. So I'm going to take Quinn Ewers here and hope that he has the season that we think he is going to have. Next up, we've got the Atlanta Falcons. I still think they drafted Bijan Robinson. They took Zach Harrison. I think they could use another piece on your defensive line. And For them, I'm going to take Jared Verse out of Florida State, a guy who I think would have been a first round pick had he come out this year, decided to go back to school for another year. Hopefully, he can improve his draft stock and go in the top 10. Jared Verse, great off the line, good hands. I like him to Atlanta here at 7. At number 8, the Green Bay Packers, I'm going to take Ola Fashanu out of Penn State. I think he would have been the first tackle off the board in this year's class, and they ended up going back to school for another year. He's a fairly raw offensive tackle prospect, but man, he can play. I think he's going to be a very good player. And then we got the Tennessee Titans who took Will Levis. I still think that offensive line, it's not great. I think Graham Barton is going to be a name to keep your eye out for. But I'm going to take an edge rusher to pair alongside Mr. Jeffrey Simmons. Unfortunately, not a guy I love here, so I think I'm going to go D-line, and I'm going to take JT Tuamalu. I know I butchered that name, but he's very good. An interior presence you can play in one of that interior defensive line positions. I kind of think that's what they need, so we're going to select him here. Then we have the Chicago Bears, and I'm going to take Brock Bowers, tight end out of Georgia. Cole Kmet's fine, but I don't think he's your long-term solution there. I'm going to make this move here because I think he's got some of the highest upside we've seen in a tight end. He's super quick, great speed, incredible athlete. He's going to be one of the top tight ends off the board, and I really like what he could bring to this squad. Then we have the Arizona Cardinals back on the clock, and if Kool-Aid McKinstry is still on the board, I think that makes sense. They took Garrett Williams. Their secondary is still in shambles. He's the best cornerback in this class. I'm not overthinking this. I'm taking Kool-Aid McKinstry to the Arizona Cardinals. Then we have the Chicago Bears back on the clock. I think you still need to improve this D-line, and if Michael Hall is on the board here, I'm going to make that move. The interior of this defensive line for the Bears it's still not very good. You still need to improve it, so I'm going to take him. I should have taken an edge. They did take Gervon Dexter. They did take Zach Pickens. I think they both do interesting things. I think Michael Hall has a higher ceiling than both of those guys, so we're going to select Michael Hall there. Then we get to the Denver Broncos, and again, I think D-line's coming off the board here. You could look cornerback, and I think I am going to go with a corner, actually. Even though you took Riley Moss, you can never have too many corners. I'm going to take a quick peek at the tackle position. Cooper Beebe, I think, is more of a guard. Cedric Van Pran's a good player. Graham Barton, I'm trying to think. They got their tackles on lock. I am going to end up selecting a corner here, and I'm going to take Denzel Burke out of Ohio State. You need some help. You need to have a good secondary, and I think Denzel Burke provides some depth in a secondary that Denver is going to need some help in. So he's my pick there at 13. At 14 for the New England Patriots, they didn't address wide receiver really at all in the draft until later. Still think you need to go get yourself a number one. I think Xavier Worthy could be a number one type receiver for you. He's got good size. I think I take that back. Not great size, but he's fast, good hands, and he's been very reliable at Texas. So the question is a little undersized, but I like Xavier Worthy here, the Patriots. I think he would be exactly what they're looking for. Next up, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's going to be Jeremiah Trotter. This dude's numbers are off the charts. I think he is going to be a fantastic player at the next level. I really like what he could provide to this squad, and they're looking for another linebacker. They did draft, who did the Steelers draft at the linebacker position? I think they waited a little bit on linebacker, and I'm blanking on the name. They didn't take one very high, but I think Jeremiah Trotter at 15, I think he would have been the number one linebacker in this year's class. He's a monster. I like him to Pittsburgh here at 15. At number 16 for the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm still struggling to figure out where this pick came from, but we're going to look probably on the defensive line and take Mason Smith. They did a decent job improving the edge. They got B.J. Ojulari. We're going to go take his teammate Mason Smith, a space eater in the middle, which I think is exactly what they're looking for. I'm going to take him there. The Houston Texans, via the Cleveland Browns from the Deshaun Watson trade, will take Emeka Egbuka, another really good receiver out of Ohio State. They have both him and they have Marvin Harrison Jr., who we already saw go earlier. And I think he's just as good. I take that back. He's arguably the second best receiver in this class. Good size, great hands, super productive. And I like what he could bring to the Texans. They're looking for a number one and pair him up with his former college quarterback in C.J. Stroud. For the Los Angeles Chargers, we are going to take a running back here, and that is going to be Travion Henderson out of Ohio State. Now, the reason I'm taking a running back so high, we saw two go in the top 12 this year. I think we might start to see a little bit more value back on the running back position again. And why not? I don't know what Austin Eckler's future holds. They didn't really address running back the way I would have liked to see them do. So we're going to take one here at 18 and hope he can be our running back of the future. Moving on to the New Orleans Saints, we're looking for another edge rusher, and this is not as good of an edge rusher class as last year's, at least thus far. But I'm going to look at this tight end positions because this is a great tight end class, I think, with Brock Bowers. But Jatavion Sanders is going to be the selection. The Saints didn't take a tight end, and I think their tight end room is very weak. So I'm going to take the tight end I'm looking at here in Jatavion Sanders. I think he's going to be a very nice piece for my team. Then we get the New York Giants. Now, this is another really tough spot. I think I'm going to take Cooper Beebe here to the Giants because you did get some. You got a receiver late. I like Jalen Hyatt. You got Slayton. You got Paris Campbell. I'm not taking receiver. You got Deontay Banks. I know that's not going to solve everything, but you still need some guard play. I think Cooper Beebe could be a guard at the next level. He probably will be a guard. I really like what he could bring, so I'm going to take him to the Giants at 20. For the Detroit Lions, they probably need to address that edge position opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. We're going to take Jack Sawyer, best edge on the board here. I think he's going to be a very nice complement to Aiden Hutchinson. Good pass rusher, and I think that's what they need. They just need to continue to beef up their defense. Moving on to the Miami Dolphins here. Very interesting team. We're not sure what's going to happen with Tua. Their secondary, I think, is stacked, and I'm not going to really look that way, but we're going to go with an offensive lineman here, and I think this is where we're going to take Graham Barton. I know he's way down here on the board, but he's a guy who I think is being undervalued here, according to the mock draft database. Good tackle. I don't know how much long Teron Armstead's going to have, and I just think he'd be a very nice piece to this team. You need some tackle depth. You could even play him on the right side. Their offensive line, not great. You could move some guys around, but Graham Barton's going to be the pick for me at 22. Then we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, so I think they're still looking to improve this secondary. Kalen King is on the board here. I think your safety room still a little weak. I'm not going to take safety, though, because they drafted Antonio Johnson. I'm assuming he's going to take the role that I want them to. So I'm going to take Kalen King out of Penn State. Very productive, had a good year alongside Mr. Joey Porter Jr. I think he is going to have an even bigger year now that he is the number one corner. I think he's going to have a very solid season and jump up draft board. So we're going to put him here at 23. For the New York Jets, safety play, I think, is most certainly the question mark here. We're going to take Andrew Makuba out of Clemson. Best safety in this class, I think, pretty easily. And I really like him to the Jets. They got Chuck Clark, LaMarcus Joyner. I don't know if he's still there. I think he is, but he was not good last year. They just need some help in this safety room. Jordan Whitehead, they need help. Moving on, we got the Seattle Seahawks. This is going to be a defensive line pick, I'm assuming. Yeah, it will, because I do like Jer'Zhan Newton here. Their defensive line is good. I still think it could be better, so we're going to take Jer'Zhan Newton, and I think he could be a nice piece here. For the Baltimore Ravens, it's Raheem Sanders, and I think he has the opportunity to become the number one back in this class throughout the 2023 season. I think he's a fantastic running back. The Ravens, I know J.K. Dobbins is coming up. They, I believe, only have one running back after this year, so they're going to need to address the running back's position, and I think Raheem Sanders does exactly that. For the Dallas Cowboys, I think receiver is where they're going to go. I like Troy Franklin, another guy who's a little bit on the shorter side, but he's productive, he's fast. I think he would be a very good option. So I'm going to take him here to the Cowboys, who are looking for some more speed in their wide receiver room. Then we've got the Buffalo Bills. We're going to take Javon Bullard here. Look, the question is around this team, is their secondary. Their safety play, Micah Hyde, Jordan Poyer, they're getting older. They can't do it forever. Javon Bullard can be your replacement. He's coming from Georgia, so you can assume that's a really good player. And he is very good. Great safety, and I think he fits what Buffalo's trying to do. The Niners, their offensive line is good, but I think that right tackle spot is going to need to be improved. So I'm going to take J.C. Latham out of Alabama. You're looking for right tackle because you lost Mike McGlinchey. You got Trent Williams, and you're going to eventually be looking for a replacement there as well. So I'm going to take a tackle there. I think it makes a lot of sense. For the Cincinnati Bengals, we're going to take, it says wide receiver is the number one need. I do like Johnny Wilson quite a bit. They've updated this recently. They definitely have. So I'm going to have to go through this and kind of take a little bit of a closer look at some of these guys. Some of these names are new to me, but we are going to probably take corner. I think we're going to go with a corner here. Max Melton, I felt when in last year's class, I guess he must have decommitted. Safety could be in play. Kalen Bullock is a nice option. I think we're going to go tackle again, though. I think we are because even though I believe they drafted an offensive lineman down the board, I still think you got to continue to beef up this line around Burrow. You got your left tackle. Looks like Jonah Williams might play right tackle. I'm not loving any of the receivers here for them. Running back, they drafted Chase Brown. I like that. Tight end, I don't think there's anyone I'm going to take here. So we're going to look at going linebacker we're going to go with an offensive tackle. We're going to take Kingsley Somaitia. Look, the offensive line has been a weakness for the Bengals for quite some time, and they're going to need to continue to do it. For the Eagles, we are taking Cedric Van Pran. He's a Georgia player, so it just makes sense. Not only that, though, he is a center, I believe, and after Jason Kelce retires, you don't really know what's going to happen. You could swing Cam Jurgens to play that right guard role, which I think he could do very nicely, and then you got a center there. I think it makes sense. And then for the Chiefs, I think we would go receiver here, and I'm going to select Johnny Wilson out of Florida State. This dude's got incredible size. I believe he's 6'7", runs a 4.4. He's basically built like a tight end. They could use some size in their receiver room, so I'm going to take Johnny Wilson here and call it a day. The Raiders trade up for number 1 to get Caleb Williams, and that's going to do it for my mock. I uploaded this earlier, and I had some technical difficulties, so re-recording this. Hope you guys enjoy. Leave a like on the video. Subscribe if you are new, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Adios.